Welcome back to Leeds Lately, where today I'll be talking about Leeds United winning 2-1 against Newcastle at St James's Park. So before I get into this video, the first thing I just want to say is get in! This is the first time we've won since I've been doing this channel. Like I said in my build-up video, this is exactly what we needed. We needed 3 points here because now 26 points halfway through the season is a brilliant start. So as usual, we'll go through the game blow by blow and we'll have a look at the key points, goals and any other interesting stuff that happened. So the first notable thing was that Llorente started. Although we haven't seen him play much, he looks like a decent player. He came in for his debut against Chelsea and had an okay game considering the melting pot that he'd been put straight into. But as I say, he started today. 10 minutes in, he's injured and he's off with a hamstring injury. Not a great start. Pascal Struijk comes on to replace him, and Struijk, he's had a little bit of criticism when he's been playing in midfield for his passing output and stuff. You put him at centre back and he seemed solid today. He was solid. He was heading balls away from the back. He was playing it out calmly. He seems like he's really growing into that role of utility defender, defensive midfielder, and you can tell that he's improving. He's only young, but he is getting better. Calvin Phillips was back. That was a massive thing for this game. Calvin Phillips was back and he breaks up that play. He did start to struggle later on, as I'll talk about with Saint-Maximin, but I don't think there's many players who wouldn't struggle against the feet that he's got. We had a good chance about 12 minutes in, was sort of the first real chance of the game where it was dinked across the box and Jack Harrison had a good chance to volley it, but he completely sliced it. And I thought, oh no, this is going to be one of those days. But 5 minutes later came the Rafinha goal. Now, it came from a Newcastle mistake where Jamal Lewis lingered on the ball for too long, facing his own goal, and it was nicked off him. It was passed into Bamford. Bamford ran at the defenders. There was only 2 defenders against Bamford and Rodrigo. Bamford slips Rodrigo in on his right foot on the right hand side, and you think, oh god, the chance has gone here. But Rodrigo, calm as you like, tucks back in and thinks, right, there's no chance I can get a shot away here. So he just slips it into Rafinha, and Rafinha just slots it in the bottom left corner. Brilliant finish. So calm, so composed, and he's looking like a real player for us this season. I noticed that not long after that, Ryan Fraser in particular, for Newcastle and some of the other players, they looked so despondent. I mean, who wouldn't, considering the system that they're playing in and the amount of chances that they've not created. That was for about a 5-minute spell. I noticed that Newcastle players were starting to get despondent, but they did grow into the game and they did actually play really well in the second half. So the next thing I want to talk about is how poor Newcastle were in that first half. Like I said, they came good in the second half and they played a very good game of football for that half, but the first half they were so sat back. It's like what I talked about in my preview with the average positions. All the players were in their own half sitting back, and I know that we're a possession team, but surely you see the blueprint of how other teams have beat us, and they've come out at us and they've come and attacked us. They've nicked the ball and they've sprung counter-attacks. They didn't try and do that in the first half. They just sat back, and even when they did get the ball, they looked like they were panicking when we were pressing them. And we did get 2 more chances before the half was up. There was that one where Rodrigo was on the right-hand side of the box, tried to cut back and shoot, and it was blocked. Then Rafinha took over, ran it almost to the byline, and Bamford was pretty much with an open goal, but Rafinha couldn't get it out of his feet in time and cut it back to him, and he ended up hitting the post. A couple of seconds later, Leeds attack again and we're on the edge of the box, and Rodrigo blazes one past the bottom right post. So we were looking like we were going to score again in that first half. The last thing I want to talk about in the first half is Bamford. Now, Bamford didn't have a great game today, and you can excuse that considering the amount of goals he scored this season against what we expected him to be able to score. But I've got one bone to pick with Bamford, and I think he's brilliant, and I wouldn't criticise him unless it was something that was constructive. Obviously, I'm not expecting him to see this and be like, oh yes, Leeds lately said that I need to do this, so I'm going to start scoring goals now. But one thing that I've noticed and other people have noticed is that his heading, sometimes he makes a clean contact with the ball and you think, all right, he's done as much as he can there and it's directed it just off target. But there are times where the ball's whipped in, and there was a free kick that we had at the end of the half, which was a perfect example of this. The ball's whipped in and he looks like he's in a great position. Well, he is, and he's in a great position to head the ball, and it just skims off his head as if he's just mistimed it and not gone for the actual contact at the right time. And I've noticed it multiple times in games this season, so I think that's something that he needs to have a look at, because he could get a good few goals a season doing that. He could add an extra 3 or 4 goals a season to his tally just getting on the end of those properly and making a good contact with the header. So in the second half, Newcastle came out a lot brighter and a lot more dynamic. They were making runs, they were actually attacking, and they were creating a few chances. Nothing clear cut at the early stages of the second half, but they were looking like they were improving. Alioski can be a good player on the attacking side, but defensively I do think he is a bit lacking. There was that time where he fell over, right before he was taken off, he fell over after he was dispossessed, and he punched the ball away from the attacker's feet. I can't quite remember who it was, it might have been Jacob Murphy. And he punched the ball away from his feet, and now he got a yellow card for this, and Bielsa took him off straight away. But you don't mind that if he's made a mistake and he's not rectified it, but he stopped their counter attack and took a yellow card for it. It's effectively a professional foul. So it's not the end of the world, but he does worry me sometimes with his defensive ability. Like I said, shortly after that, Click replaced him. Dallas went to left back and Click went back into centre midfield. And Click, who hasn't been brilliant recently, did look a lot brighter and a lot sharper in that game. I mean, maybe he just needed a rest. The amount of games that Bielsa's played him in his time here, I think he'll definitely be the player that's played more than anybody else in the time that Bielsa's been at the club. So maybe he just did need a little bit of a rest, and when he came on as a substitute in the second half, he did look a lot brighter. He looked like a bit of a spark in the midfield, and he looked good. Soon after that, it was Almiron's goal, where Bamford came back to win the ball after we'd headed it out from a corner. I think it was a corner or a free kick from a Newcastle attack, and Bamford tried to knock it into Ayling to lay him off to try and launch an attack. But the ball was a little bit loose, and I think it was Hayden slid in on Ayling, and they won the ball. Little 1-2, and Wilson plays a first-time pass into Almiron, who's in on goal. Meslier gets a good hand to the shot, but unfortunately goes in the top corner, and it was a very well-worked blink of an eye flash of brilliance from Newcastle in that. It was bang, 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 3 little passes, you're in on goal, and it was hard to deal with. It was very good, taking advantage of a mistake. I think it was 5 or 9 minutes later, Harrison scores his goal. Now this goal was brilliant. It showed a real technical ability to finish. Rafinha's cutting in off the right, running across the box, shaping up to shoot, but he sees Harrison at the back post, and he just dinks it over the right back's head. Harrison stops for a second after he's taken one touch on a crazy angle considering he scores this, and he's outside of the foot, volleyed it far post, and Darlow can't get there. And like I say, brilliant bit of technical ability to squeeze it in there. I really wasn't expecting him to shoot, I was expecting him to put it back across the box, but he scored and it was brilliant. After that, it was pretty much all Newcastle. They were attacking and attacking and attacking, and the influence of Saint-Maximin was massive when he came on. He was running players ragged, and he will do against nearly anyone in world football, I think. Unless you're a world-class defender, you're not going one-on-one with Saint-Maximin and coming out with the ball, because he just has such quick feet, and we had to resort to fouling him, which is really what you've got to do against a player like that if you haven't got the technical ability to take him on man for man. So a couple of the chances, for example, Jamal Lewis hit the bar, then they had a corner that Lascelles hit the bar off a header, and they were very good in that second half. It makes you wonder why they don't play like that usually against other teams. Imagine them playing like that against your West Brom or Sheffield United or any of the other teams down there that they're in a battle with. They might have won more games. They might have got more points from those games if they'd have played like that. Instead of playing that conservative sat back football that isn't working for them anyway, you would try and mix it up. And to be honest, Steve Bruce might go after this game, but they did show an attacking intent in that second half that shows that they could have picked up a lot more points than they have. They're just almost scared to go out and attack teams in case they get beat like they did against us, where we won 5-2. But in this game, it was a much closer game, and they could have easily nicked a point. In the second half, they were good for it. It would have been a fair result of the second half, but given on the whole balance of the game, I think we deserved to win, given how we played in the first half. And the last two things were 2 great saves from Meslier. One was the corner that was whipped in. Shelvey headed it almost straight at him, but that quickly he had to make a very good reflex save, and that's what he did, and tipped it over the bar, and it was great. The other one was Fabian Schär running in from the defence, and he took on a few players and had a crack, and it was going in, to be fair. It was going in, and Meslier got a very strong hand to it and tipped it out. So yeah, credit to Meslier as well. He's come back after his injury, and I forgot to say actually, in the first half he took that knee to the head, and then which looked nasty on the replay, and then in the second half he took a kick to the head off Callum Wilson as well. So he's been in the wars, but he's absolutely brilliant for how young he is, and yeah, he's definitely one for the future. Well, he's one for now really, because he's the youngest keeper in the Premier League that's getting consistent games, and he could be our keeper for 15 years maybe. If he continues to grow on the trajectory he's on and cuts out some of those mistakes, I don't see why not. He's fantastic. Last thing I want to mention is just a silly little incident where Fabian Schär was chasing down Rodrigo. Rodrigo flicks out an arm to just sort of defend against him, taking the ball off him and try and shield the ball, and I think he caught him in the mouth, and we saw afterwards that he was bleeding, but Rodrigo went down under the challenge because it was a foul. Rodrigo said something then to Fabian Schär, I don't know what it was, but clearly it angered him, and he got up and he went for the kill. He came up to Rodrigo and put his head in his face, and then Rodrigo fell down, and it was a bit embarrassing. But yeah, I think sometimes in these situations the players expect more contact than's actually come. I think Rodrigo's expecting him to actually come and make contact there, but Scher's not stupid enough to do that, and Rodrigo's gone down and looked a bit silly anyway. That's why I think you could see a bit of a smile on his face when he realised that Scher hadn't really headbutted him. He just sort of moved towards him. The only thing I would say with that though is, at some point they're going to have to penalise players for putting their face in such close proximity to another player because of COVID. Because that's not usually a thing that you would bother about. It gets heated, players come close to each other, but when you go in that close to him and breathing in his face, surely that's a bit dodgy. But obviously, there's nothing at the moment. But it just seems like that might be something that we might see in the future. Yeah, so that's going to be the end of this video. I'm absolutely buzzing that we've actually managed to pick up 3 points whilst I've been doing this channel, because I've got something to be happy about and talk about with a bit more enthusiasm. So yeah, so if you want to follow me on Twitter, that's Leeds_Lately. So yeah, like I said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time after the Leicester game.